Welcome to the second session on AI today. Our session is sandwiched between the very fascinating session that came just before in French and before another session which will be on generative AI for businesses. So in a way, they complement one another. Clearly, we've hit the road of artificial intelligence, all of us. And we all know that it will take us far. That's about the extent of our certainty. How far, we don't know, and where we're heading is unclear. But we have a say. AI doesn't drive itself yet, as far as we know. And we can't let the Magnificent Seven and their counterparts in China decide for us. When we look ahead, the most general question is, how good is AI going to get? But there are two ways of understanding this question. The first and most frequent construal is, of what cognitive feats will AI eventually be capable? The second and most significant construal is this: how good will it be for us? We cannot simply assume that what's good for AI is good for humanity, as some people seem to think, and nor, of course, should we assume the opposite, as others believe. We can try to strike a balance. We can recommend that we reap the benefits of AI while preventing or limiting the damages it can inflict. But that doesn't help. It doesn't provide any hint of how to approach such a goal. We must do better, and we can. AI's achievements and effects so far are a rich body of evidence, of case studies, so to speak, that we can use to assess whether we're moving in the right direction or should correct the present trajectory in small or big ways. There's a complication, of course, an important one. The directions that AI can in fact take are not entirely preordained. They depend on what scientists and engineers will discover by intent or by serendipity in the short term and in the fullness of time. As always in science, we sometimes find what we have been looking for and sometimes not. And what we find is sometimes that we were looking for and sometimes not. But this should not dissuade us from trying to gain as clear a perspective as possible on where AI can take us and where we want it to take us. The panelists on the present session, as those on the next one and on the previous one, will provide a wide spectrum of perspectives on this issue. By ways of introduction, let me offer a simple, indeed simplistic conceptual map of the kind of concrete questions that need to be raised. There are, on the sunny side of the AI road, achievements and promises that are promoted. And on the other, shady side, pitfalls or downsides that are flagged. Regarding achievements and promises, I suggest a 2x2 table. On one dimension, some are real or realistic. Some are unsupported by present achievements and available ideas. On the other dimension, some are prima facie beneficial, some dangerous, risky, or outright toxic. Examples that combine realism and a priori beneficence might be smart search engines, scientific assistance, medical assistance, legal assistance, driving assistance. This was brought out very well in the previous session by Mr. Azat's discussion. Examples that combine realism and risk or toxicity are near-perfect chatbots, especially of the AI companion kind, as well as AI poets, novelists, composers, and so on. On the side of beneficial but unsupported promises and exaggerated achievements, explainable AGI, artificial general intelligence, safe level 5 self-driving vehicles. I know that some people are going to disagree with me. On the side of dangerous but mercifully unsupported systems, black box AGI, full autonomous AI physicians, teachers, judges, policemen, therapists, politicians, CEOs. Concerning pitfalls or downsides, I propose to distinguish between predicaments that have no solution but need to be faced as lucidly as possible so as to be mitigated as best we can, and challenges which can and therefore should be actively taken up. Examples of the first sort, predicaments, might be autonomous lethal weapons and the new battlefield, cybersecurity, increased inequalities within and between nations, and, to use a word which is not admitted in polite society in such places, dehumanization. Examples of challenges which must be met head-on are respect of privacy, of intellectual property, of simple factual truth, some degree of transparency as far as it doesn't contradict the very idea of AI, environmental impact, de-skilling, and last but not least, fabrication of false persons. This last example is a case where we could have imposed from day one a total ban on all technologies that would contribute to this deadly attack on trust, something analogous in the social domain to nuclear weapons for biological survival. It was perfectly clear that these technologies would lead to the pleasant hell of fakery and AI companions, and perfectly clear, at least outside of Silicon Valley, that it would be disastrous. But we can and we must claw our way back to sanity and trust. Some of these examples are controversial, and each of them and countless others call for careful consideration. Two things stand out, though, it seems to me. One is that while debates on AI in general are necessary, they tend to be inconclusive. Progress is more likely when the discussion is restricted to specific areas such as medicine, education, warfare, health, justice, political decision-making, etc. And the other is that innovation per se is not a sovereign good, and therefore it need not be protected regardless of cost. Regulation may slow it down, but good regulation does it for a reason. When innovation and regulation work hand in hand, humanity benefits. So with that, those introductory remarks, we'll now move on to the panel. I will not introduce the speakers. You have their bios on in the brochure, and we'll go in the order in which people are seated, actually, and they each have about 6 or 7 minutes, and I will be a terribly rigorous chairman. So